The galaxy had been at peace for 3,000 years. 7 different alien species worked together in a great alliance called the Conclave. They traded with each other, shared their knowledge, and solved their problems with words instead of weapons. It was a good time to be alive among the stars. The Voroth were tall insects with many eyes that could see things other species could not. They served as the soldiers and protectors of the Conclave. The Netheri were beautiful creatures who lived in water and on land. They managed all the money and trade between worlds. The Cathari were made of living crystal, and they kept all the communication systems running. There were 4 other species too, each one bringing something special to the alliance. But there was one rule that every species learned before they could join the Conclave. One law that nobody ever questioned or broke. It was simple, and it was absolute. Never wake the humans. The humans slept on a small blue planet called Earth. It circled around an ordinary yellow star in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Long ago, the humans had built massive underground cities and filled them with special sleeping chambers. Millions and millions of humans lay in those chambers, frozen in a sleep that could last forever. Before they went to sleep, the humans had sent one message to every world in the galaxy. High Counselor Vethra of the Voroth had seen that message when she became the leader of her people. She still remembered every word. "We are tired," the humans had said. "We have fought enough wars. We have lost enough of our children. Let us sleep in peace, and we will let you live in peace. But if you wake us, if you threaten our home, you will remember why the universe once feared the name of humanity." Along with that message came historical records. Vethra had watched those records once, and only once. She never watched them again because they gave her nightmares. The records showed human soldiers running toward enemy fire when any sensible creature would run away. They showed human scientists building weapons that could break planets into pieces. They showed what happened to species who had attacked human colonies in the early days. When humans first reached the stars, those species did not exist anymore. The humans had wiped them out completely. Humans are strange creatures, the old High Counselor had told Vethra when she took her position. They can be so kind and gentle. They will die to save someone they have never met. They create beautiful art and music that can make you cry with joy. But when you hurt the people they love, when you push them too far, they become something different. Something terrible. Something that cannot be stopped until everything that threatened them is dead. For 3,000 years, the Conclave had followed the rule. Earth was marked as forbidden space. No ship was allowed to go anywhere near it. The humans slept. Everyone else lived in peace. Then the Drathkai came. They appeared at the edge of Conclave space, without any warning. Their ships were massive and covered with weapons. The creatures inside were reptiles who stood on 2 legs with scales the color of dried blood and eyes that showed no mercy. They had traveled from beyond the edge of the galaxy, conquering everything in their path. Commander Zethral of the Vorath Defense Fleet sent his report with fear in his voice. "They destroyed our border stations in minutes. Our weapons did nothing to their shields. They are demanding that every world surrender to them completely." The Conclave called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all 7 species gathered in the Great Hall at the center of the galaxy. Their faces were pale with worry. "You cannot beat them in a fight," said Admiral Morith of the Netheri. "They have 3 times more ships than we do, and their weapons are much better than ours." "Then we must talk to them," suggested Counselor Kethvon, his crystal body pulsing with nervous light. "We can offer them payment. We can give them time to develop better defenses. They will not talk to us." High Counselor Vethra said sadly, "We sent ambassadors to meet with them. The Drathkai killed our ambassadors and sent us recordings of their deaths." Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then a young Voroth officer named Dreth said the words that would change everything. "What about the humans?" Every eye in the room turned to look at him. Vethra felt her heart grow cold. "We cannot wake them," she said firmly. "The law is absolute. We must never wake the humans." "High Counselor, with respect, what good is that law if we are all dead?" Dreth asked. "The humans have weapons that can destroy stars. If they were awake, if they chose to help us, the Drathkai would be nothing but dust. And if they choose not to help us, What if they see our arrival as an attack? Then we will have two enemies instead of one, and the humans are far more dangerous than the Drathkai could ever be. The argument went on for hours. Some said they should wake the humans. Others said it was too dangerous. But in the end, fear of the Drathkai was stronger than fear of the humans. Send a delegation to Earth, the conclave voted. Wake them carefully. Explain what is happening. Ask for their help. Vethra was the only one who voted no. As she left the Great Hall, she whispered a prayer to God she was not sure she believed in anymore. Please forgive us for what we are about to do. The delegation ship was prepared quickly. Ambassador Thelvian of the Netheri was chosen to lead it. He was known for his skill with words and his ability to stay calm in difficult situations. He would need both of those skills where he was going. As the ship prepared to leave, Vethra came to speak with him one last time. Be very careful, she told him. The humans are not like us. They think differently. They feel differently. And they can be very, very dangerous when they are angry. I understand, High Counselor. No, you do not understand. None of us can truly understand what the humans are. Vethra paused, searching for the right words. When you wake them, when you look into their eyes, you will see something that does not exist in any other species. It is a fire that burns inside them. Sometimes it creates warmth and light. Sometimes it burns everything around it to ashes. What determines which one it will be? Vethra shook her head. That is what makes them so frightening. We never know until it is too late. Thelvian bowed respectfully and boarded his ship. As it rose into the sky and jumped toward the stars, Vethra watched it go with a heavy heart. Somewhere across the galaxy, the Drathkai fleet was advancing, destroying everything in its path. And somewhere on a small blue planet, millions of humans were sleeping peacefully. Dreaming dreams of a world without war, those dreams were about to end. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, carrying its small crew toward a meeting that would decide the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. None of them knew if they would survive long enough to see how it ended. None of them knew what the humans would do when they were awakened from their long sleep, but they all knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was about to change forever, one way or another, and nothing would ever be the same again. The delegation ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Ambassador Thelvian stood at the front window, watching the stars drift past. His silver scales caught the light from the control panels, shimmering with nervous energy. He had read his speech so many times that he could say it in his sleep, but he still felt afraid. The ship passed the outer edge of the human solar system. Giant planets with swirling storms of gas floated in the endless black. Moons of ice and rock circled around them. Everything was quiet and still, as if the whole system was holding its breath. We are approaching Earth, the pilot announced. No hostile response detected. Thelvian nodded, but did not relax. He knew that the humans had been watching them since they entered the system. Sensors hidden among the asteroids had tracked their every move. Weapons platforms floating in orbit had locked onto their ship. The humans were sleeping, but their machines were wide awake. The ship moved past Mars, a red planet covered with ancient human structures that had been abandoned long ago. It passed the moon, where empty cities stood silent beneath a black sky. Then Earth itself came into view. From space, Earth looked beautiful and peaceful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface. Green and brown continents rose from the water. White clouds swirled in patterns across the atmosphere. It was hard to believe that something dangerous slept beneath such a lovely world. But Thelvian sensors told a different story. Deep underground, massive power systems were still running after 3,000 years. The human sleeping chambers stretched for hundreds of miles beneath every continent. Machines watched over the sleepers, keeping them alive, waiting for the day when they would wake up. Begin landing, Thelvian ordered. The old records say there is a main facility in the mountains on the large western continent. The ship descended through the atmosphere. Wind buffeted its hull as it passed through the clouds. Below, mountains rose sharp and tall, their peaks covered with snow. Among them, Thelvian could see a massive door set into the rock face, covered with faded warning symbols in the human language. The ship landed on an ancient platform made of stone and metal. Cracks ran through the surface, but it was still strong enough to hold them. Thelvian stepped out with his 4 guards, their weapons ready, but pointed at the ground. As they approached the door, lights flickered to life around them. A voice spoke from hiddenspeakers.com and without emotion. "You are not authorized to be here. State your purpose." "We are representatives of the Galactic Conclave," Thelvian said. His translator turned his words into human language. "We have come to speak with the sleepers. We need your help." There was a long pause. Thelvian could hear his own heartbeat in the silence. Then the voice spoke again. It sounded different now, less like a machine and more like a person. "You were warned never to wake us. We know. But our people face destruction at the hands of an enemy we cannot defeat. We have nowhere else to turn. We are begging for your mercy." Another pause, longer than the first. Then, with a grinding sound that echoed off the mountains, the massive door began to open. "Enter," the voice said. "You will speak to our council, and they will decide if your cause is worth our return. If they say no, you will leave and never come back. And if you have lied to us, if this is some kind of trick, you will learn why our ancestors told you to let us sleep." Thelvian swallowed hard and walked through the door. The facility inside was like nothing he had ever seen. It was an entire city built underground, stretching in every direction as far as his eyes could see. The walls were lined with thousands of sleeping chambers, each one holding a frozen human. Medical robots moved silently between the chambers, checking on the sleepers. Maintenance machines crawled along the ceiling, repairing any damage they found. A small flying robot appeared and began to lead them deeper into the facility. They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Everywhere they looked, there were more sleeping chambers, more frozen humans, more machines watching over them. Finally, they reached a central room where 12 chambers stood in a circle. As Thelvian watched, the chambers began to warm up. Lights on their surfaces changed from blue to green. The sound of pumping liquid filled the air. The first chamber opened with a hiss of cold vapor. A human man stepped out, tall and thin, with dark hair that had streaks of gray in it. He moved slowly, stretching his arms and legs, blinking his eyes as if he was waking from a long dream. "I am Captain Daniel Morrison," he said. His voice was rough and scratchy from not speaking for so long. "I commanded the North American defense grid before the sleep. You are the ones who woke us." "Yes, Captain. I am Ambassador Thelvian of the Netheri. I represent the Galactic Conclave. I know who you are. Our computers have been listening to galactic communications since we went to sleep. We know about your conclave, your peace, your wars." He paused and cracked his neck, making a popping sound. "We also know about the Drathkai. Their chambers were opening now." A woman with short yellow hair stepped out, metal implants visible on the side of her head. A young man emerged, looking barely old enough to fight, but with eyes that had seen terrible things. An older woman with scars on her face and arms came out last, moving with the easy grace of someone who had spent her life as a soldier. "This is Commander Lisa Park." "My second in command," Morrison said, pointing to the yellow-haired woman. "Sergeant Kevin Hunt, our ground forces specialist. And General Patricia Stone, who led our last war before we went to sleep." General Stone stepped forward and looked at Thelvian with eyes as cold as the cryo-chambers. 3,000 years. We slept for 3,000 years because we were tired of fighting. Tired of being the monsters that other species called when they needed something destroyed? We understand, General. We would not have come if there was any other choice. There is always another choice. You just did not want to pay the price for it. Stone shook her head slowly. "Show us what you have. Show us these Drathkai. Let us see what you want us to wake up for." Thelvian activated his data device and projected images into the air. He showed them the Drathkai fleet, thousands of ships bristling with weapons. He showed them the destroyed space stations, the murdered ambassadors, the planets that had already fallen. He showed them everything. The humans watched in silence. Their faces showed no emotion, but Thelvian could see something moving behind their eyes. Something dark and dangerous. When the presentation ended, Stone turned to Morrison. "What do you think, Captain?" "They are bad. Not the worst enemy we have ever faced, but bad enough to cause real damage. Can we beat them? Morrison smiled, and Thelvian felt a chill run down his spine. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had just spotted prey. General, we can destroy them completely. We can wipe them out so thoroughly that no one will ever remember they existed. The question is whether we should. Stone turned back to Thelvian. We need time to think about this. Our full council needs to wake up and discuss it. You will have our answer within 1 day. Thelvian bowed low and retreated. As he walked back through the corridors of sleeping humans, he could not shake the feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. He had woken something that should have stayed asleep. Behind him, he heard General Stone's voice echo through the chamber. Send the wake-up signal to all facilities around the world. Tell them to prepare for full activation. It seems the galaxy has forgotten what we are. And then, softer, almost sad, time to remind them. Thelvian walked faster, suddenly eager to be back in his ship. The door to the outside world seemed very far away, and the sleeping humans around him no longer looked peaceful. They looked like they were waiting for something. The human council gathered in a room that had not been used for 3,000 years. Dust covered the floor, and the air smelled old and stale. But the lights still worked, and the chairs were still strong. 20 humans sat around a circular table, each one representing a different part of Earth. These were the leaders who had guided humanity through its darkest days. They had fought wars, built cities, and made the hard choices that others could not make. They had seen things that would break most people, and they had chosen to sleep so that future generations might know peace. Now someone was asking them to wake up and fight again. General Patricia Stone stood at the head of the table. She had activated a holographic display that showed all the information about the Drathkai. Maps, numbers, images of destruction floated in the air before them. You have all seen the reports, she said. The Drathkai have conquered 17 star systems in the past year. They do not negotiate. They do not make peace. They only conquer and enslave. Their goal is to control every living thing in the galaxy. That story sounds very familiar, said Peter Gray, a large man with a beard who had once led the resistance in what used to be Europe. How many times have we heard this exact same thing? Too many times, agreed Maria Santos, a woman with dark eyes and gray hair. Every generation, some empire decides they want to own the universe, and we have to stop them. That is exactly why we went to sleep, said Dr. Helen Frost, a scientist who had helped build the cryochambers. We were tired of cleaning up everyone else's problems. We asked for one simple thing, to be left alone, and they could not even give us that. Captain Daniel Morrison spoke from his seat. The Conclave did not want to wake us. They only did it because they are desperate. Their ships cannot match the Drathkai. Their technology is too old. If we do not help them, they will all be dead or enslaved within 10 years. And why should we care about that? Peter Gray demanded. These are the same species who looked down on us when we first went into space. They called us primitive and violent. They try to control us and limit our expansion. Now they need our violence, so they come begging for help. Because if the Drathkai conquer the galaxy, they will eventually come for us, General Stone said quietly. We may be sleeping, but we are not invisible. Our defense systems are strong, but they cannot hold forever against an enemy with unlimited time and resources. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. They could stay asleep, but eventually the Drathkai would find them. And then they would wake up to fight anyway, but from a much weaker position. Councilwoman Beth Adams, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I keep thinking about my daughter. She is still in cryosleep, along with her children and grandchildren. 15 generations of my family, sleeping peacefully, dreaming about a world where they do not have to fight. She paused, her voice becoming thick with emotion. If I vote to wake everyone up, if I vote to go to war again, I am telling them that their peace was just a short break. That violence is all we will ever know. And if you vote to stay asleep, Morrison asked gently, what happens to your daughter and her children when the Drathkai finally arrive? Adams closed her eyes. I do not know. I do not know what the right answer is anymore. General Stone looked around the table at all the tired faces. These were people who had given everything so that humanity could have a chance at peace. Now that peace was being taken away from them. "Let me tell you what I know," she said. "I know that war is terrible. I know that we promised we would never fight again. I know that we have every right to stay in our beds and let the rest of the galaxy burn." She paused, her voice growing stronger. "But I also know that right now, somewhere out there, innocent people are dying. People who never wanted this war, who just wanted to live their lives in peace. Children are losing their parents. Families are being torn apart, and we have the power to stop it." "At what cost?" Peter Gray asked. "The cost of our rest, our peace, maybe our souls." Stone's voice became hard as steel. "But if we do nothing, if we let the Drathkai kill their way across the galaxy because we are too tired to fight, then we are no better than they are. We become monsters who just found a comfortable way to hide from what we truly are." Dr. Frost stood up from her chair. "I vote to wake up. All of us, everywhere. We end the Drathkai threat, and then we make sure no one can ever threaten the galaxy again. We build something that will last this time. Not just for us, but for everyone." One by one, the other council members rose to their feet. "I vote to wake up. I vote to fight. I vote to remind the universe what happens when you disturb a sleeping giant." Maria Santos was the last to stand. She looked at General Stone with tired eyes. "I vote yes. But I want you to promise me something." "What is that?" "Promise me that when this is over, we will try to build something better. Not just go back to sleep and wait for the next war. Actually try to make a galaxy where this never has to happen again." Stone nodded slowly. "I promise." We all promise. With that, the vote was complete. Every single member of the council had chosen to fight. General Stone pressed a button on the table. Her voice went out to every cryo facility on Earth, carried by systems that had waited 3,000 years for this moment. "This is General Patricia Stone, speaking to all human facilities worldwide. Begin the full awakening sequence. I want every chamber active within 48 hours. Wake the soldiers, the pilots, the engineers, the doctors. Wake everyone." She paused, looking at the holographic image of the galaxy floating before her. "Well, pull our ships out of storage. Turn on the factories. Prepare the weapons. We have work to do." Across the planet, something stirred. Power stations that had been dark for 3,000 years began to hum with energy. In mountain bases and underwater facilities and hidden bunkers, lights flickered to life. Cryo chambers by the millions began their warming cycles. Captain Morrison stood beside General Stone, watching the status reports come in. "Estimated time to full military readiness?" Stone asked. 7 days, General. Our ships are in perfect condition. The maintenance robots have been taking care of them this whole time. And our weapons." Morrison smiled grimly. "Still the most powerful in the known galaxy. We kept our best technology secret from the other species. They have no idea what we are capable of." Stone nodded. "Good. Send a message to the Conclave. Tell them we are coming. Tell them to pull their forces back and give us room to work." "Should I warn the Drathkai?" "No." Stone's voice was cold. "They had their warning 3,000 years ago. They chose not to listen. Now they will learn why that was a mistake." Outside the facility, Ambassador Thelvian received the news that the humans had agreed to help. He immediately sent a message to the Conclave, his hands shaking as he typed. "The humans are waking up. All of them. They say they will be ready to fight in 7 days." High Counselor Vethra read the message and felt her blood run cold. Part of her was relieved that the Drathkai would be stopped, but another part remembered the historical records. The images of what humans could do when they went to war. She whispered a prayer for the galaxy, because nothing was going to be the same after this. Meanwhile, deep in space, Supreme Commander Zarveth of the Drathkai received reports about unusual activity in the human solar system. He dismissed them with a wave of his clawed hand. "Let the soft species wake their pets," he laughed. "What can primitive warriors from a small planet do against our great armada?" He would find out soon enough. The first sign that something was wrong came 3 days after the humans began to wake up. A Drathkai scout squadron was patrolling the edge of conclave space. 15 of their best ships, each one armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. They were hunting for weak targets, looking for more species to conquer. Then they simply disappeared. One moment, the ships were sending normal reports back to the main fleet. The next moment, there was only silence. No distress calls. No weapon signatures. No debris. Just empty space where 15 ships used to be. Supreme. Commander Zarveth stared at the blank screen where his scouts should have been. "Find them," he ordered. "Send more ships to search the area." But before his officers could respond, every screen in the command center lit up at once. A human face appeared, overriding their most advanced security systems as if they were children's toys. It was an older woman with gray hair and cold eyes. Scars marked her face and neck. She looked directly at the camera with no fear at all. "Attention, Drathkai fleet," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I am General Patricia Stone of the Human Defense Force. You have invaded our neighbor's space. You have killed innocent people. You have threatened the peace of this galaxy. We gave you a chance to turn back. You did not take it." She paused, and her eyes seemed to grow even colder. "Your scout squadron is gone. Not captured. Not damaged. Gone. There is nothing left of them. If you continue moving forward, the same thing will happen to every single one of your ships. This is not a negotiation. This is not a warning. This is a simple statement of fact. Turn back now, or be destroyed. There is no middle ground." The transmission ended. Zarveth slammed his fist against his command chair, cracking the metal armrest. His scales had turned dark red with rage. "These humans dare to threaten us? We are the Drathkai. We have conquered 100 worlds. Find their fleet and destroy every last ship." His sensors detected the human fleet an hour later. They appeared out of nowhere, using some kind of faster-than-light travel that the Drathkai had never seen before. 300 ships materialized directly in front of the advancing armada. They were sleek and beautiful in a deadly way, their hulls covered with weapons and shields that the Drathkai computers could not identify. 300 ships? Zarveth laughed, his fear turning to confidence. "We have 2,000. All batteries, open fire." The Drathkai fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons fired massive balls of superheated gas. Particle beams cut through space like knives. Nuclear missiles flew by the hundreds, each one powerful enough to crack a planet open. The barrage was the largest the Drathkai had ever fired. It should have vaporized anything in its path. But the human ships did not try to dodge. They did not try to run. They just kept coming, their shields glowing bright as they absorbed every shot. The most powerful weapons in the Drathkai arsenal hit those shields and simply vanished, like raindrops falling into an ocean. Then the human ships fired back. Zarveth watched in horror as beam weapons sliced through his fleet. Each shot punched through the shields of his ships as if they were not there at all. Each shot hit something vital. Each shot was a kill. One beam. One ship destroyed. Again and again and again. Drathkai vessels exploded by the dozens. Crews did not even have time to scream before their ships were torn apart. The weapons that had conquered 100 worlds were useless. The shields that had never been broken shattered like glass. Zarveth screamed. "All ships retreat." But the humans were not interested in letting them escape. Their 300 ships accelerated with impossible speed, moving faster than anything Zarveth had ever seen. They flew through the Drathkai formation, weapons firing without pause, destroying everything they touched. The battle lasted less than 1 hour. When it was over, 2,000 Drathkai warships had been reduced to floating wreckage. 500,000 warriors were dead. The greatest military force the galaxy had seen in centuries. It's been completely erased, and the human fleet had not lost a single ship. Zarveth floated in his escape pod, surrounded by the remains of his once mighty armada. Through his small window, He could see pieces of ships drifting past, bodies in spacesuits, weapons that would never fire again. A human ship approached his pod slowly, deliberately. It was larger than the others, a command vessel with smooth lines and hidden weapons. It stopped just a short distance away, close enough that Zarveth could see the name painted on its hull. The voice of Captain Daniel Morrison came through his communication system. Supreme Commander Zarveth, you are now a prisoner of the Human Defense Force. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your invasion is over. Zarveth tried to respond, but his voice would not work. He had never imagined this was possible. His people had never lost a battle. They were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. How could this have happened? Morrison continued speaking, his tone almost gentle. You were warned, Supreme Commander. Your ancestors may not have known about us, but the other species in this galaxy did. They knew what happens when you wake up the humans. They knew, and they were afraid. Should have listened to them. The human ship grew larger as it approached, swallowing up the view from Zarveth's window. Capture beams reached out and grabbed his pod, pulling him toward an uncertain future. Far away, High Counselor Vethra received the news of the battle. Her communications officer could barely speak as he delivered the report. The Drathkai fleet has been completely destroyed, High Counselor. Every single ship. The humans did not lose anyone. Vethra sat in stunned silence. She had known the humans were powerful, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. How long did the battle last? Less than 1 hour. 1 hour, Vethra repeated softly. They destroyed 2,000 ships in 1 hour. She looked at the images coming in from the battle site. Miles of debris floating in space. Energy signatures from weapons that the Voroth scientists see. I'll not even explain. And the human fleet undamaged, already moving toward the Drathkai home systems? Send a message to all Conclave worlds, Vethra said. Tell them to stay out of the humans' way. Let them do what they came to do. Should we offer to help them, High Counselor? Vethra shook her head slowly. We would only slow them down. This is not our fight anymore. This is something else entirely. She watched the human fleet disappear into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the heart of Drathkai space. May the gods have mercy on anyone who stands in their path, she whispered, because the humans certainly will not. In the days that followed, the human fleet swept through Drathkai territory like a cleansing fire. Military bases were destroyed. Weapons factories were turned to dust. Warships were hunted down and eliminated wherever they tried to hide. The Drathkai had never known defeat before. Now they knew nothing else. General Stone sent one final message to the Drathkai. Homeworld, as human ships took position in orbit around it, your military is gone. Your leaders are captured. You have 2 choices. Surrender completely and face justice for what you have done. Or keep fighting and watch your civilization end forever. I suggest you choose wisely. The Drathkai surrendered 12 hours later. The war was over. But for the galaxy. A new chapter was just beginning. The war against the Drathkai lasted exactly 3 weeks from start to finish. Human fleets moved through enemy space with terrible purpose. Every military station was destroyed. Every warship was captured or eliminated. Every weapons factory was reduced to rubble. The Drathkai, who had never lost a single battle in their long history of conquest, lost every single engagement against the humans. When it was over, human ships surrounded the Drathkai homeworld. They did not fire. They did not need to. Their presence alone was enough to make the message clear. The surrender terms were simple and absolute. The Drathkai would give up all their weapons. They would pay compensation to every species they had attacked. Their leaders would stand trial for their crimes, and they would never, under any circumstances, threaten another world again. Some Drathkai warriors wanted to fight to the death, rather than accept such terms. General Stone sent them a personal message. We can destroy your entire species, she said, her voice flat and calm. Every ship you have, every city you have built, every single one of your people. We have the ability to do it, and after what you have done, there are humans who would gladly press the button. Her eyes softened just a little. But we do not want to. We are tired of killing. We are tired of being the galaxy's executioners. So we are giving you a choice. Surrender and live. Fight and die. There is nothing in between. The Drathkai chose to live. 6 months later, Ambassador Thelvian stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. The chamber had been rebuilt and expanded to include a seat for humanity. General Stone sat among the representatives, her uniform crisp and clean, her face showing nothing. High Counselor Vethra rose to speak. The Drathkai threat is finished. Thanks to our human allies, the galaxy is safe once more. We owe them a debt that can never be repaid. General Stone shook her head slightly. We do not want repayment. We want peace. Real peace, not the kind that depends on one species being willing to fight everyone else's wars. She stood up and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching her. Is why we are proposing something new. A true alliance where every species contributes to defense. Where no one group has to carry the weight of protecting everyone else. Where we share our technology and our knowledge freely. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. We went to sleep 3,000 years ago because we were tired of being feared. Tired of being the monsters that other species called when they needed something destroyed. We wanted to be more than just weapons, and we have a chance to build something better. A galaxy where strength protects instead of conquers. Where different species work together instead of hiding behind the threat of human violence. We are not asking you to trust us. Trust must be earned, and we know our history. We know what we have done and what we could do again. But we are asking for a chance to be something different. Vethra looked at the human general for a long moment. This was not the monster from the ancient records. This was a tired warrior who had seen too much death and wanted nothing more than to stop fighting. The council accepts your proposal, Vethra said softly. Let us build this future together. The vote passed without a single voice against it in the years that followed. The galaxy transformed in ways that no one had expected. Human technology was shared with every species. Ships became faster and safer. Medical science advanced by centuries in just a few years. Communications networks connected distant worlds as if they were neighbors. Human teachers worked alongside alien scholars, exchanging knowledge and ideas. Human doctors helped cure diseases that had plagued other species for generations. Human engineers helped build stations and cities on worlds that had never known such wonders, and human soldiers trained the new Joint Defense Forces. They taught discipline and tactics, but they also taught restraint and mercy. They showed that strength did not have to mean cruelty, that power could be used to protect instead of destroy. General Stone retired after 5 years of service on the Galactic Council. She returned to Earth and found a small house near the mountains where she had first been awakened. Sometimes other council members would visit her there, seeking her wisdom on difficult decisions. How do we know when to fight and when to find another way? A young Varoth commander asked her one day. Stone thought about the question for a long moment before answering. Fight when there is no other choice. When innocent people will die if you do not act. When evil will triumph if good does nothing. But you always look for another way first. And when the fighting is done, you must be willing to put down your weapons and build something better. Is that what humans believe? Stone smiled sadly. That is what we are learning to believe. We are not there yet. We may never get there completely. But we try. Every day we try. On the 10th anniversary of the Drathkai War, Captain Daniel Morrison stood before a memorial wall in the mountain facility where everything had begun. The names of humans who had died in the fighting were carved into the stone. Not many compared to wars of the past, but enough Commander Lisa Park found him there, her cybernetic implants gleaming in the soft light. The council is asking for you, she said. There is some kind of celebration they want you to attend. In a minute. Morrison ran his fingers over one of the names. I was thinking about what General Stone said about being more than weapons, and I think we can do it. I think we can finally become what we always wanted to be. Not just warriors. Not just monsters that other species fear. Just people who happen to be very good at fighting, but who choose to do other things instead. Park smiled warmly. That sounds surprisingly hopeful coming from you. 3,000 years of sleep gives you a lot of time to dream. He turned away from the memorial. Let us go to this celebration. I heard they have cake. They walked out together into a world that was finally learning to be at peace. Across the galaxy, a simple phrase began to spread. It was not a warning anymore. It was a promise. Humans are awake, and this time they are here to help. The Drathkai, now stripped of their military power, slowly began to rebuild their civilization in a different way. Some of them resented the humans forever, but others, especially the younger generations, came to see that there was another path besides conquest. The first Drathkai, ambassador to the Galactic Council, was a young female named Verakith. She stood before the assembly on her first day and spoke words that her ancestors would never have imagined. My people made a terrible mistake. We thought that power meant taking from others. We thought that strength meant making others weak. The humans showed us how wrong we were. She looked at the human representatives with respect in her eyes. They could have destroyed us completely. They had every right to do so after what we did. Instead, they gave us a chance to be something better. We will not waste that chance. Years passed, then decades, then centuries. The galaxy continued to change and grow. New species were discovered and welcomed into the Alliance. Old problems were solved with cooperation instead of conflict. The human way of thinking, the idea that strength should protect rather than dominate, spread to every corner of known space and on Earth in cryo chambers that were no longer needed. New generations of humans grew up in a world without war. They learned the history of their ancestors, the terrible beauty of what humanity could do when pushed too far. But they also learned a different lesson. They learned that the greatest victory is the one that never needs to be fought. The memorial wall in the mountain facility became a place of pilgrimage. Beings from every species came to see the names carved in stone and to remember the price that had been paid for peace. At the bottom of the wall, someone had added a final inscription. No one knew who had put it there, but everyone agreed that it was perfect. They were warned never to wake the humans. They did not listen. But in the end, the humans showed them something unexpected. Not just the fury of awakened giants, but the wisdom of those who have learned that peace is the greatest strength of all. The Sta,